I never imagined the day would come when my own son would tell me I no longer belonged in the home his father and I had built with our own hands. He said it so casually that it stung far worse than if he had shouted. In that moment, I understood that the people I had given everything to had already decided my future, without once asking what I wanted. My name is Evelyn Brooks. I am 74 years old, and every corner of that old house held a piece of my heart. My late husband Michael and I bought the land when we had almost nothing to our names. We spent years building our dream, one paycheck at a time. We painted every wall ourselves, planted every tree in the yard, and raised our only son, Ryan, within those very walls. After Michael passed, I stayed because that house was all I had left of him. A few years later, Ryan and his wife, Lauren, moved in after falling on hard times. I welcomed them with open arms. I cooked their meals, watched their children, paid bills whenever money got tight, and never asked for a single thing in return. I truly believed that family always took care of each other. But slowly, everything began to shift. Ryan grew distant. Lauren treated me like I was constantly in the way. They talked about remodeling the house, turning rooms into offices, and creating more space for themselves. One morning, Ryan sat across from me at breakfast and calmly suggested I move into a retirement community because the house was no longer suitable for someone my age. I looked around the kitchen where I had spent decades cooking for my family and felt like a stranger in my own home. They called it concern, but I knew the truth. They wanted the house without me in it. That night, I opened an old drawer beside my bed and pulled out the original deed. My husband and I had paid off the mortgage years ago. The house legally belonged to me. Ryan had forgotten one important detail. He could ask me to leave, but he could not force me out. The next morning, after everyone left, I called an old friend named Grace, who had become a respected real estate agent. I asked her to sell the house quietly, without telling anyone. No signs in the yard, no public listings, only serious buyers who would appreciate the home instead of tearing it apart. Over the next few weeks, I packed only the things that truly mattered. Family photographs, my husband's journals, my mother's quilt, and a few keepsakes that reminded me of happier days. As I sorted through the house, I realized how much of my life I had spent giving without ever expecting anything back. Grace soon introduced me to an older couple named Linda and Robert. They walked through every room with respect instead of criticism. They admired the handmade cabinets, the worn staircase, and the old peach tree in the backyard. They were not looking for a project. They were looking for a home. I accepted their full-price offer without hesitation. On closing day, I signed every document with complete peace in my heart. Before leaving, I placed an envelope on the kitchen table addressed to Ryan. Inside was a copy of the finalized sale agreement and Grace's contact information. I left no explanation because I no longer owed one. I checked into a small inn while the sale was completed. The next afternoon, my phone exploded with calls and messages. Ryan demanded to know why there was a sold sign outside the house. Lauren accused me of ruining their plans. Neither one asked if I was all right. They only complained about how difficult I had made their lives. A few days later, I returned one last time. Ryan was sitting alone in the empty living room, looking completely defeated. He asked why I had never given them a chance. I looked at him and quietly replied, "You already had your chance. The day you asked me to leave my own home was the day you made your choice. I simply made mine." He lowered his head and admitted he had been thinking only about himself. For the first time in years, he apologized without making excuses. I told him I did not hate him, but I needed him to remember that I was more than just his mother. I was a person who deserved respect. Soon after, I moved into a small cottage where life finally became peaceful again. I joined a local book club, made new friends, and spent my mornings drinking tea on the porch without feeling like I was in anyone's way. Ryan eventually visited with flowers in his hands and genuine regret in his eyes. He admitted he had forgotten how much I had sacrificed for him. This time, I believed he meant every word. I forgave him, but I never regretted selling the house. Some people think courage means fighting to stay. I learned that sometimes true courage means knowing when to close one door, walk away with dignity, and build a happier life somewhere new. That decision did not just save my future. It reminded my son that a mother's love should never be mistaken for permission to take her for granted.